He ruled the city's shadows with an iron fist. She disappeared without a trace, carrying a secret that would shatter his empire. 5 years later, a chance encounter in a small café brought them face to face, and the twin girls in her arms had his eyes. This is the story of a mafia king who abandoned love for power, only to discover that the greatest threat to his throne wasn't his enemies. It was the family he never knew existed. A tale of second chances, dangerous truths, and a love that survived betrayal. You've never seen anything like this on another channel. Don't let this story slip away. Hit subscribe now, because what happens next will change everything. The rain fell like judgment over the city. Jae-hyun moved through the streets with the kind of silence that made grown men lower their eyes. 32 years of calculated violence had carved him into something beautiful and terrifying. Sharp jawline, hands that signed death warrants as easily as they poured whiskey, eyes that held winter even in summer. His men flanked him, shadows in expensive suits, as he pushed through the door of a cafe buried in the immigrant quarter. Some low-level dealer was using the place to move product. Simple extraction, routine cleanup. But the moment he crossed the threshold, the world stopped turning. She stood behind the counter, older but unmistakable. Her hair was pulled back in a tired bun, her apron stained with coffee and exhaustion. Mia. 28 now, 5 years older than the last time he'd seen her face. 5 years since he'd walked away without explanation. 5 years since he'd chosen the family business over the only woman who ever made him feel human. His fury, hot and immediate, froze in his chest. Because in her arms, balanced on opposite hips like precious cargo, were two identical girls. 5 years old, dark curls, wide, curious eyes. His eyes. The dealer, the product, the reason he'd come. All of it evaporated. "Mia," he said, and his voice sounded foreign to his own ears. She turned slowly, as if she'd been expecting this moment for years. Her expression didn't break, didn't soften. The counter between them felt like an ocean. Jae-hyun. No emotion, just his name, dropped like a stone into still water. One of the girls tugged on her mother's shirt. "Mama, who is that man?" The other twin stared at him with unnerving focus, tilting her head the exact way he did when he was calculating an opponent's weakness. Mia's jaw tightened. "No one, baby. Just someone passing through." But her eyes told him everything. "You don't get to be their father. You lost that right when you disappeared." His second in command, Min-jun, cleared his throat. "Boss, we should get out." Jae-hyun's voice cut through the room like a blade. "All of you. Now." The men hesitated for half a breath, long enough to weigh survival against curiosity, then filed out into the rain. The door clicked shut. Silence pressed against them, heavy and suffocating. Jae-hyun took one step forward. Mia took one step back, instinctively shielding the girls. "They're mine." It wasn't a question. "They're mine." She corrected him, voice steady as steel. "I carried them. I raised them. I fed them when I had nothing. You were gone." "You never told me." A bitter laugh escaped her throat. "Told you?" "You vanished in the middle of the night, Jay. No note, no call, just gone. I waited 3 months before I realized you weren't coming back. I had reasons. I don't care about your reasons." She set the girls down gently, whispered something in their ears. They wandered to a small play corner, glancing back at the strange man in the expensive coat. When Mia straightened, her eyes blazed. "Do you know what it's like to be pregnant and alone in this city? Do you know how many times I thought about giving up? But I didn't. Because they deserve better than a mother who quit." Jae-hyun's hands curled into fists at his sides. He'd ended lives for lesser offenses than what he'd done to her. But apologies felt hollow. Words meant nothing in his world. "What are their names?" Mia hesitated, as if even that small piece of information was too much to give him. "Hana and Hira. she finally said. Hana means one in Korean. Hira means diamond in Swahili. His throat tightened. She'd given them pieces of both worlds, his and hers. I want to... No. Mia crossed her arms. You don't get to walk in here after 5 years and decide you want something. That's not how this works. I can provide for them, protect them. From what? The world you live in? Her voice dropped, almost pitying. I know what you are, Jae-hyun. I've always known. That's why I didn't come looking for you. I won't let them grow up in that darkness. One of the twins, Hana, he thought, looked up from her coloring book. Mama, is the scary man going to hurt you? Mia's expression softened instantly. No, sweetheart. He's leaving. Jae-hyun stood frozen, a king in his empire, powerless in this tiny café. I'll come back, he said quietly. Don't. But they both knew he would. Because some men could walk away from kingdoms, but not from this. He came back the next morning, and the morning after that. At first, he just watched from across the street, standing in the rain like a ghost haunting his own past. His men thought he'd lost his mind. Min-jun suggested, gently, that perhaps the boss needed rest. Jae-hyun ignored them all. On the 4th day, he walked inside. Mia didn't look surprised. She poured coffee for the elderly Korean man in the corner, laughed at something a regular customer said, and only then acknowledged him with the barest glance. We're not a charity, she said. Order something or leave. Americano. Black. She made it without a word, sliding the cup across the counter. When he tried to pay, she waved him off. First one's free. For old time's sake. It felt like forgiveness and punishment all at once. He sat in the corner booth, the same one where they used to meet when he was younger, before the family pulled him deeper into the business. Back when he still believed he could have both, the empire and the girl. Hana and Hira played near the window, building towers out of sugar packets. They kept glancing at him, whispering to each other in that twin language only they understood. Hira, the bolder one, eventually walked over. Why do you keep staring at us? Jae-hyun's carefully constructed mask cracked. I knew your mother. A long time ago. Are you her friend? I was. Why did you stop? Children and their brutal honesty. I made a mistake, he said quietly. A very big one. Hira studied him with those unsettling eyes. His eyes, then nodded as if his answer was acceptable. Mama says everyone makes mistakes, but you have to say sorry. I did. Did she forgive you? He looked at Mia, who was watching the exchange with unreadable eyes. No, he admitted. Not yet. Hira patted his hand, a gesture so gentle it nearly undid him. Keep trying. That's what Mama tells us. Then she skipped away, leaving him alone with the weight of his failures. That night, Jae-hyun sat in his office, staring at a file his men had compiled. Mia's life, reduced to data points, 2 jobs, café by day, cleaning offices at night, rent overdue twice this year, no family support, no government assistance, just her, grinding herself to dust to keep those girls fed and safe. Meanwhile, he lived in a penthouse that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. The inequity of it made him feel something he rarely allowed himself. Shame. Boss. Min-jun entered without knocking. We have a problem. Jae-hyun didn't look up. Handle it. It's about the café. Now he looked up. Min-jun laid out surveillance photos. Chen's crew has been circling the area. They think you're expanding territory. They're threatening the local businesses to send a message. Jae-hyun's blood went cold. The café? Not yet. But it's only a matter... He was out of his chair before Min-jun finished the sentence. Mia locked the café door at midnight, exhausted down to her bones. Hana and Hira were asleep in the small apartment above the shop, barely more than a room with a hot plate and a shared mattress. She was halfway up the stairs when she heard the footsteps behind her. 3 men, Chen's crew, based on the tattoos. "You the owner?" one of them asked, voice dripping with false politeness. Mia's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. "We're closed." "That's unfortunate. See, we're here to discuss protection fees." "I don't need protection." The man laughed. "Everyone in this neighborhood needs protection, especially single mothers running cafes in the wrong part of town." He stepped closer. Mia's hand slipped toward her phone, but one of the other men snatched it from her grip. "Don't be stupid. Just pay up, and nobody gets—" The sentence died as a car screeched to a halt outside. Jae-hyun emerged like wrath given form. He didn't speak, didn't need to. The air itself seemed to drop 10 degrees. The 3 men recognized him instantly. Color drained from their faces. "Mr. Choi, we weren't told. You touched her." His voice was silk over steel. "No, sir. You touched her." One of the men made the mistake of reaching for a weapon. He didn't get the chance to draw it. Jae-hyun moved with brutal efficiency, every strike precise, economical, devastating. It was over in seconds. When the last man crumpled to the pavement, Jae-hyun turned to Mia. She stood frozen on the stairs, eyes wide. "You're bleeding," she whispered. He glanced at his knuckles. "It's not mine." For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the gap between their worlds never more apparent. "Thank you," she finally said. He shook his head. "This is my fault. They came because of me." "Jae-hyun, I'm putting security on this block, permanent. They won't come back. I don't want your protection. You don't have a choice." His eyes softened. "Please, let me do this one thing." Mia wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she didn't need him, didn't want him in her life. But upstairs, her daughters slept, and pride had never kept anyone safe. "Okay," she whispered. He nodded once, then walked back to his car. But before he drove away, he looked back at her one last time. And for just a moment, she saw the boy she'd loved beneath the monster he'd become. The bodyguards arrived the next morning. 2 men in dark suits who positioned themselves at either end of the block. Discreet, but unmistakable. Mia's regulars noticed immediately. "You in trouble, honey?" Mrs. Park asked, eyeing the men nervously. "No," Mia lied. "Just precautions." But the truth was harder to swallow. She was under Jae-hyun's protection now. Whether she wanted it or not, she'd become part of his world again. He came by every afternoon at exactly 3 p.m. Never stayed long. Ordered the same Americano. Watched the girls from his corner booth with an expression that looked like longing mixed with regret. Hana warmed to him first. She started bringing him her drawings, crude stick figures labeled Mama, Me, Hira, and one unlabeled figure standing far away from the others. "Who's this?" Jae-hyun asked, pointing to the distant figure. "I don't know yet," Hana said seriously. "But he looks lonely." Jae-hyun's throat tightened. Even children could see what he'd become. Hira was more cautious, but one day she climbed onto the booth bench beside him uninvited. "You smell like my uncle's cologne," she announced. "You have an uncle?" "Mama's friend. He visits sometimes." Jealousy flared, hot and unexpected. "Is he? Does your mother like him?" Hira shrugged. "I think he likes her, but Mama says she doesn't have time for that stuff." "Smart woman." "Are you sad?" Hira asked suddenly. The question caught him off guard. "Why do you ask?" "You have sad eyes. Like the dog at the shelter before Mama said we couldn't keep him." Christ, he was being compared to an abandoned puppy by a 5-year-old. "Maybe a little," he admitted. "You should smile more. It helps." She hopped down and ran back to her sister, leaving Jae-hyun staring after her in wonder. 3 weeks into this strange new routine, Mia finally broke. She found him waiting after closing, leaning against his car in the rain. "You can't keep doing this," she said, arms crossed against the cold. "Doing what?" "Hovering, watching, sending guards, acting like you have some claim to us." "I don't—" He stopped, chose his words carefully. "I'm not trying to claim anything. I need to know they're safe." "Why? Because they're yours?" "Because they're yours." His voice cracked slightly. "Because I failed you once, and I won't let it happen again." Mia's anger wavered. "You can't protect us from everything, Jay. I can try." They stood in the rain, the space between them charged with 5 years of unsaid things. "They ask about you," Mia admitted quietly. "Hana wants to know why you're sad. Hira thinks you're lonely. They're perceptive. They're children. They see simple truths that adults complicate." Jae-hyun stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. "What do you see?" "I see a man trying to fix something that's already broken." "Is it? Broken beyond repair?" Mia looked up at him, rain streaming down her face. "I don't know anymore." For the first time in 5 years, she didn't pull away when he reached for her hand. His fingers curled around hers, gentle, tentative, like holding something sacred. "I can't undo the past," he said softly. "But if you let me, I'd like to try to be present for the future." "As what? A father?" "You don't know the first thing about being a father." "Then teach me." The vulnerability in his voice nearly broke her. "This world you live in," she whispered. "It's dangerous. Dark. I won't expose them to that." "I know, and I won't ask you to." He squeezed her hand. "But I can be better. For them. For you." Mia wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But she'd learned the hard way that wanting something didn't make it true. "One dinner," she said finally. "With the girls. Somewhere public, nowhere near your business." Hope flared in his eyes. "When?" "Sunday, 6 p.m. There's a family restaurant 2 blocks from here. I'll be there." She pulled her hand away, already regretting the decision. "If you disappoint them, Jae-hyun. If you hurt them the way you hurt me. I will never forgive you." "I won't." He said it like a vow. "I promise." Mia nodded and turned to go back inside. But before she reached the door, his voice stopped her. "Mia?" She looked back. "Thank you. For giving me a chance I don't deserve." She didn't respond, just disappeared into the café, leaving him alone in the rain. But as she climbed the stairs to her daughters, she allowed herself the smallest, most dangerous thing: hope. Sunday came slower than any week Jae-hyun could remember. He stood in front of his closet for 20 minutes, something he'd never done in his life, trying to decide what a father wore to dinner with daughters who didn't know he existed. Not the Tom Ford suit, too severe. Not the Rolex, too flashy. He settled on dark jeans and a simple black sweater, feeling ridiculous and nervous in ways that billion-dollar deals had never made him feel. Minjun watched from the doorway with barely concealed amusement. "Boss, you're sweating." "I'm not sweating." "You've changed shirts 3 times. Get out." But Minjun's expression softened. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing." Jae-hyun didn't respond. He wasn't sure there was a right thing when you'd already done everything wrong. The restaurant was exactly the kind of place Jae-hyun never went. Plastic menus, crayon cups on every table, a server in an oversized costume waving at children. It was perfect. Mia arrived exactly on time, holding both girls' hands. She dressed them in matching yellow dresses, their hair in careful braids. When Hana spotted him, she broke free and ran over. "You came! Of course I did." He crouched to her level. "I promised, didn't I?" Hira approached more cautiously, studying him with those unnerving eyes. You look different. Good different or bad different. She considered this seriously. Normal different. He'd take it. Mia joined them, and for a moment, they stood awkwardly. A fractured family pretending at wholeness. Table for 4? The hostess asked cheerfully. 4, like they were a unit, like they belonged together. Yes, Jae-hyun said before Mia could correct her. Table for 4. Dinner was chaos in the best way. Hana spilled juice twice. Hira insisted on ordering for everyone, listing items with the confidence of a tiny CEO. Mia tried to maintain order, but eventually surrendered to the beautiful mess of it all. And Jae-hyun? He watched them with the kind of attention he usually reserved for enemy movements and business contracts. The way Mia cut Hana's food into small pieces without being asked. The way Hira's nose crinkled when she laughed. The way both girls had his stubborn chin and Mia's generous mouth. Why are you staring? Hana asked, pointing a chicken finger at him. Because I'm trying to memorize this, he said honestly. Memorize what? This moment, all of you. Mia's eyes met his across the table, and something unspoken passed between them. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of understanding. Do you have kids? Hira asked suddenly. Jae-hyun's chest tightened. Mia's fork paused halfway to her mouth. I do, he said carefully. 2 daughters. Where are they? Right here. Having dinner with me. The girls exchanged confused glances. But we're not your... Hana started. Hana, Hira, Mia interrupted gently. Eat your food, babies. They obeyed, but Jae-hyun could see the questions forming in their sharp little minds. Later. They'd have to explain it later. After dinner, they walked to a small park nearby. The girls ran ahead to the swings, and for the first time all evening, Jae-hyun and Mia were alone. They're amazing, he said softly. They are. You did this, all by yourself. Mia shrugged. I didn't have a choice. You could have... He stopped himself. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. What were you going to say? That I could have found you? Demanded child support? Her voice wasn't angry, just tired. Jay, I didn't want your money. I wanted you. And when you made it clear I couldn't have that, I moved on. I was protecting you. From what? From me, from the family, from everything I'd become. He shoved his hands in his pockets. My father, he would have used you. Used them. As leverage, as weapons. I couldn't let that happen. Mia stopped walking. So you just left, without explaining, without giving me a choice? Yes. That wasn't protection, Jae-hyun. That was cowardice. The word hit him like a physical blow because it was true. I know, he whispered. I know. They stood in silence, watching Hana push Hira on the swing, their laughter carrying across the playground. My father's dead now, Jae-hyun said quietly. Heart attack 2 years ago. I run the family, which means I make the rules. And what rules have you made? That no one touches what's mine, ever again. Mia turned to face him. We're not yours to protect. Aren't you? His eyes burned with intensity. Tell me you don't feel it. Tell me these 5 years erased what we had. What we had died the night you left. Liar. The accusation hung between them, sharp and true. Because Mia had tried to forget him. God knows she'd tried. She'd dated other men, forced smiles through coffee dates and awkward dinners. But none of them made her feel the way Jae-hyun did, alive and terrified and completely seen. Even if I did still feel something, she said carefully, it doesn't change reality. You're a criminal, Jay. You hurt people. You live in a world where violence is currency. I know what I am. Then you know why I can't. Why we can't. Mama! Hana's scream cut through the air. They both spun around. A black SUV had pulled up to the curb. 3 men were approaching the playground, moving with purpose. Jae-hyun recognized them instantly. Chen's crew. Again. His blood turned to ice. "Get the girls," he said, voice deadly calm. "Now." But Mia was already running. The men reached the swings before she did. One of them grabbed Hira's arm. "Boss wants a word with your boyfriend." Hira screamed. Hana started crying. Mia threw herself between them and the girls. "Let her go." "Lady, this doesn't concern—" She slapped him across the face with enough force to leave a mark. The man's expression darkened. He raised his hand. He never got to bring it down. Jae-hyun moved like death itself. Faster than thought, more brutal than mercy. The first man went down with a shattered kneecap. The second tried to draw a weapon and found his wrist broken before the gun cleared his jacket. The third actually managed to land a punch, splitting Jae-hyun's lip. It was the last thing he did before Jae-hyun put him on the ground. The entire fight lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, Jae-hyun stood over the groaning men, breathing hard, blood on his knuckles and murder in his eyes. "Tell Chen," he said softly, "that if he ever comes near them again, I will end his entire organization. Not just him. Everyone. His lieutenants, his soldiers, his accountants. I will burn it all to ash and salt the earth where it stood." He pulled out his phone, made one call. "Clean this up. Now." Then he turned to Mia and the girls. Hana and Hira were clinging to their mother, sobbing. Mia's face was pale, eyes wide with shock. "I'm sorry," Jae-hyun said, and his voice broke. "I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent." Mia didn't respond. Just gathered her daughters and walked away. He didn't follow. He'd promised to protect them. And instead, he'd brought danger right to their doorstep. Some promises he was learning were impossible to keep. That night, Jae-hyun sat in his office with a bottle of whiskey and a loaded gun. Not to use, just to remind himself what he was. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "They're safe. Both girls are asleep. But don't come by the café anymore. This has to stop. Mia." She must have gotten his number from the business card he'd left weeks ago. He typed and deleted 5 different responses before settling on, "I understand. I'm sorry." Her reply came immediately. "I know you are. But sorry doesn't keep them safe. Goodbye, Jae-hyun." Goodbye. The finality of it settled over him like a shroud. He'd had one chance to be the man they needed, and he'd failed spectacularly. Min-jun entered without knocking. A liberty only he was allowed. Chen's been handled. He won't be a problem anymore. Good. "Boss, are you okay?" Jae-hyun looked at his oldest friend and most trusted lieutenant. "Do you think monsters can change, Min?" "I think people can surprise you." "That's not an answer." Min-jun sat down across from him. "You want the truth? I don't know if you can walk away from this life, but I know you're trying, and that counts for something. Not to her, not anymore. Then make it count." Min-jun leaned forward. "You run this city. You have resources, power, influence. Use it. Make their world safer. Not because you'll get them back, but because it's the right thing to do." Jae-hyun stared at the gun on his desk. Then he made a decision. "Call a meeting. All the families. Tomorrow night." "What are you planning?" "A new rule," Jae-hyun said quietly. "No civilian targets. No families. No collateral damage. Anyone who breaks it answers to me personally. They'll think you're weak. Let them think what they want." He met Min-jun's eyes. "I can't have her. Can't have them. But I can make sure they live in a city where they're safe." It wasn't redemption, but it was a start. 2 months passed. Mia threw herself into work, picking up extra shifts, keeping her hands busy so her mind wouldn't wander to dark-eyed men and impossible choices. The bodyguards remained at the end of the block. She tried calling the number on Jae-hyun's card to tell him to remove them, but it was disconnected. So they stayed. Silent sentinels she pretended not to notice. The girls asked about him constantly. "Where's the sad man?" Hana would ask every afternoon at 3 p.m., the exact time he used to arrive. "He got busy, baby." "Will he come back?" "I don't know." But she did know. He wouldn't. Because she'd asked him not to, and despite everything, Jae-hyun kept his promises. Even the ones that hurt. It was Mrs. Park who told her about the changes. "Have you noticed?" the elderly woman asked one morning, settling into her usual seat. "Crime's down. Police say gang activity dropped 40% in 2 months. Mia's hand stilled on the espresso machine. "Really?" "My nephew's a cop. Says the family's made some kind of peace treaty. No more civilian targets." Mrs. Park smiled. "Maybe we have a guardian angel." Mia didn't respond, but her heart knew the truth. Jae-hyun. He was keeping his distance but still protecting them. Just from farther away. It should have made her angry. Instead, it made her ache. The package arrived on a Tuesday. No return address. Just a manila envelope with her name written in careful Hangul. Inside, legal documents. Trusts set up in Hana and Hira's names. College funds, medical coverage. All of it anonymous. Routed through so many shell companies it would be impossible to trace. And a note, handwritten. "I can't be their father, but I can make sure they never want for anything. This isn't an apology. It's a promise." Mia sat in her empty café after closing, reading the note over and over until the words blurred. He was giving them everything except himself. And somehow, that hurt worse than his absence. Hira got sick in the 3rd month. High fever, convulsions, a terrifying ambulance ride in the middle of the night. Viral meningitis, the doctor said. She'd recover, but it would be close. Mia sat by her daughter's hospital bed, holding her small hand, and felt the weight of every choice she'd ever made. Single parenthood meant no backup, no partner to spell her while she slept. No one to share the fear. Just her and 2 little girls against the world. Hana climbed into the hospital bed with her sister, and Mia didn't have the heart to separate them. She must have dozed off, because when she opened her eyes, someone had draped a jacket over her shoulders. Expensive fabric. Familiar scent. She turned. Jae-hyun sat in the chair across from her, looking exhausted and terrified. "How did you know?" she whispered. Hospital flagged her insurance. "I have alerts set up." He wouldn't meet her eyes. "I know you said to stay away. I can leave if—" "Stay." The word surprised them both. He stayed. All through the night he sat with them in silence. When Mia needed coffee, he brought it. When the nurses came with updates, he listened intently, asking the right questions in that calm, commanding way of his. And when Hira's fever finally broke at 4 a.m., he closed his eyes and let out a breath that sounded like prayer. "Thank you for coming," Mia said softly. "There's nowhere else I'd be." Dawn light filtered through the hospital windows. In sleep, Hana and Hira looked impossibly small and precious. "I've been thinking," Mia began carefully, "about what you said, about wanting to be present." Jae-hyun went very still. "I was angry at you for leaving, but I was also angry at myself for letting you matter so much." She looked at her daughters. "They ask about you, every day. And I realized, I can keep you away to protect them from your world, or I can let you in and teach them how to navigate it. Mia, I'm not saying we're together. I'm not saying I forgive you." She met his eyes. "But maybe we can try. For them. I don't deserve— No, you don't. But they deserve a father. Even an imperfect one." Jae-hyun's composure cracked. "I'll do better. I swear it. I'll be whatever they need. Then start by being honest. They'll figure it out eventually. We should tell them together." He nodded, not trusting his voice. They told the girls 2 weeks later, after Hira was fully recovered. Mia sat them down in the apartment, Jaehyun beside her on the worn couch. You know how sometimes families look different? Mia began gently. Some kids have a mom and dad who live together. Some have just a mom, or just a dad. Some have 2 moms or 2 dads. Hana nodded seriously. Like Sophie at daycare. She has 2 houses. Exactly. Well, our family is like that too. Mia took a deep breath. You have a dad, and he loves you very much. He just hasn't been around. Both girls turned to stare at Jaehyun with wide eyes. You're our dad? Hira asked. Yes. Why didn't you live with us? God, how did you explain adult mistakes to children? Because I made choices that hurt your mom, and I thought staying away would keep you safe. He crouched to their level. But I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Are you going to leave again? Hana's voice was small. No. If you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your life. What does that mean? Hira asked, ever practical. Mia jumped in. It means he'll visit. Maybe take you for ice cream sometimes. Be there for important things. Like birthdays? Like birthdays. The girls looked at each other, having one of their silent twin conversations. Finally, Hana spoke. Okay, but you have to promise not to be sad anymore. Jaehyun's throat tightened. I'll try. And you have to promise not to make Mama cry. He looked at Mia, saw the tears she was fighting back. I promise. Hira climbed onto his lap with the fearlessness of children who don't know to be afraid. Do we call you Dad? The word hit him like lightning. You can call me whatever you want. She considered this. What about Appa? That's Korean for dad, right? He couldn't speak, could only nod. Okay, Appa. She said it like it was settled. Can we have ice cream now? And just like that, the impossible became real. The first month of co-parenting was awkward. Jaehyun picked them up every Saturday at noon. Took them to parks, museums, anywhere that felt wholesome and far from his actual life. He learned that Hana loved dinosaurs, and Hira was obsessed with space. That they both hated broccoli, but would eat it if he made airplane noises. That bedtime was a negotiation that required strategy and compromise. He was terrible at it, and he'd never been happier. But happiness in his world came with a price. The rival families had accepted his new rules out of respect, or fear. Chen's organization was one of the few that pushed back. You're going soft, Choi, Chen said at a tense meeting. This no civilians bullshit is bad for business. It's not up for debate. What if I make it one? Jaehyun's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room dropped. Then you'll learn very quickly why people fear me. Chen backed down. For now. But Jaehyun knew it wouldn't last. Men like Chen didn't forgive, didn't forget. They waited for weakness. And then they struck. The call came on a Wednesday night. Minjun's voice was tight with controlled panic. Boss? We have a situation. Jaehyun was at Mia's apartment reading bedtime stories. He stepped into the hallway. Talk. Chen's planning something. My source says he's targeting the café. Everything went cold. When? Tomorrow. Afternoon rush. Jaehyun's mind raced. He could flood the area with men, turn the café into a fortress. But that would terrify the girls, expose them to exactly what he'd been trying to hide. Or he could end Chen tonight. Permanently. The old Jaehyun wouldn't have hesitated, but the old Jaehyun didn't have daughters reading him bedtime stories in the next room. Appa? Hana appeared in the doorway. Are you coming back? We're waiting. He looked at his phone. At Minjun waiting for orders. Then at Hana, in her dinosaur pajamas, completely trusting that he'd come back to finish the story. Handle Chen, he told Minjun quietly. I don't care how. Just make sure he's not a problem by morning. Boss, I have to go. My daughter needs me. He hung up and followed Hana back inside. Some choices were impossible, but some were the easiest thing in the world. Chen was handled by Dawn. Jaehyun didn't ask for details. Didn't need to. Minjun knew how to make problems disappear. What mattered was that when Saturday came, he could take Hana and Hira to the aquarium without looking over his shoulder. They pressed their faces against the glass, watching jellyfish pulse through artificial currents, and he realized something profound. This was power. Not the empire, not the fear, not the money or the control. This. Two little girls holding his hands, calling him Appa, trusting him to keep them safe. This was what he'd been fighting for his entire life without knowing it. 6 months into their fragile arrangement, Mia invited him to stay for dinner. Not pick up the girls and leave. Actually stay. It felt monumental. He brought wine. Expensive, but not so expensive it would make her uncomfortable. And flowers that made Hana and Hira giggle. Those are for Mama, not you, Hira informed him. I know. But I thought maybe you two deserved something too. He produced 2 small boxes. Inside, delicate gold necklaces with their initials. The girls squealed and immediately put them on, running to show their mother. Mia emerged from the kitchen, saw the necklaces, then looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Too much? He asked quietly. No, they're perfect. Dinner was spaghetti. Simple, chaotic, perfect. Sauce got everywhere. Hana told an elaborate story about a playground incident that may or may not have been entirely fictional. Hira corrected her timeline 3 times. And Jaehyun? He sat at the cramped table in the tiny apartment and felt richer than he'd ever felt in his penthouse. After the girls went to bed, he helped Mia clean up. They worked in comfortable silence, a rhythm they'd somehow developed. Him washing, her drying, moving around each other in the small kitchen like a dance they'd been practicing for years instead of months. They love you, Mia said softly. I love them. He paused. Is that allowed? To say that? Of course it's allowed. You're their father. I know, but I'm still figuring out what that means. Mia set down the dish she'd been drying. Can I tell you something? Anything. I was so angry at you for so long. Angry that you left. Angry that you came back. Angry that you made me feel things I thought I'd buried. She met his eyes. But watching you with them. Jay, you're trying so hard. And it shows. I'm terrified I'll fail them. You will. All parents fail sometimes. But you keep showing up anyway. That's what matters. He set down the sponge, turning to face her fully. And what about you? What about me? Have you forgiven me? Mia was quiet for a long moment. I'm working on it. That's more than I deserve. Probably. A small smile. But you're growing on me. Like a persistent weed. He laughed. Actually laughed. And the sound was so unexpected they both stopped. I didn't know you could do that, Mia said, eyes wide. Do what? Laugh. Real laughter, not that cold corporate thing. I'm learning. He took a careful step closer. You teach me. Every day. The air between them shifted, charged with something dangerous and familiar. Jae-yun. Her voice was a warning and a question all at once. I know. I'm not asking for anything. I just need you to know. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't say something we can't take back. Why not? Because I'm not ready, and I don't know if I ever will be. He nodded, accepting the boundary even as it hurt. Okay. But as he left that night, her hand lingered on the doorframe, and he saw it. She wasn't ready, but she wasn't closed off entirely either. And for a man who'd learned patience through violence, waiting for her was the easiest war he'd ever fought. Year 1 became year 2. Jae-hyun restructured his entire organization, pushed harder on legitimate businesses. Started laundering money not into his pockets, but into community programs, youth centers, after-school programs, small business loans in immigrant neighborhoods. "You're leaving money on the table," his accountant complained. "Then leave it. Some things matter more." His reputation shifted. He was still feared, still dangerous. But now he was also the devil who built playgrounds and funded scholarships. It confused people. It was exactly what he wanted. Hana and Hira's 7th birthday was the first one he got to celebrate with them. Mia tried to keep it small, just family and a few friends from school. But Jae-hyun, who'd never planned a party in his life, went slightly overboard. The bounce house was probably excessive. The face painter was definitely unnecessary. The petting zoo made Mia give him a look that said, "We need to talk later." But when Hana and Hira ran to him, shrieking with joy, and threw their arms around his waist, he regretted nothing. "Best birthday ever," Hana proclaimed. "Don't tell Mama I said this," Hira whispered conspiratorially. "But you're really good at this Appa thing now." He had to step away to compose himself. Found Mia watching him from across the yard. "You're crying," she said when he approached. "I'm not crying. I have allergies." "To emotional moments?" "Apparently." She smiled, really smiled, and handed him a napkin. "Thank you. For this. For everything. It's what they deserve. It's what we all deserve," she corrected gently. And maybe it was the way the afternoon light caught her face. Or maybe it was 2 years of slowly rebuilt trust. But Jae-hyun made a decision. "Mia, I need to tell you something." "Okay. I'm stepping back. From the family business." She went very still. "What?" "Not completely. I'll still oversee things, make sure nothing falls apart. But I'm transitioning leadership to Min-jun. He's smart, capable, and honestly less terrifying than I am." "Why?" "Because I've spent my whole life building an empire that means nothing if I can't be here for this." He gestured at the party. Children laughing, cake being served, Hana and Hira showing their friends the presents. "I want to take them to school, help with homework, be at every birthday, every recital, every stupid school play. Jae-hyun, I want to be a real father, not just the guy who shows up on weekends with expensive gifts." Mia's eyes glistened. That's huge." "I know, and I'm not asking for anything in return. This is for me. For them." He paused. "But if there's any part of you that thinks maybe someday we could—" She kissed him. Right there in the middle of the birthday party, with 6 parents watching, and Hana and Hira squealing in the background. It was brief, soft, terrifying. When she pulled back, her cheeks were flushed. "I'm not saying we're together. I'm not saying everything's fixed. I know. But I'm saying, maybe, someday, if you keep being the man you're becoming instead of the man you were, I can do that." He touched his forehead to hers. "I'll do whatever it takes." "Good, because my daughters deserve the best version of you." "And their mother?" Mia smiled. "She's working on forgiving you. Ask me again in 6 months. I'll wait 6 years if I have to. Let's start with 6 months." The transition took time. Jae-hyun spent mornings in meetings, teaching Min-jun the nuances of keeping peace between families, managing territory disputes, maintaining the delicate balance of power. But by 3 p.m., he was at the café. By 5 p.m., he was picking up the girls from after-school programs. By 7 p.m., he was helping with homework, reading stories, tucking them in. It felt like learning to breathe in a new rhythm. Some nights were harder than others. Old instincts died hard. The urge to solve problems with fear and force still surfaced. But then Hana would ask him to play tea party, or Hira would need help with her science project, and he'd remember. This was the empire that mattered. 8 months after that birthday party, Mia found him sitting on her apartment steps at midnight. "What are you doing here?" she asked, not unkindly. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd make sure the security lights were working." She sat beside him. "That's the bodyguard's job. I like to check personally." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the empty street. "The girls asked me something today," Mia said finally. "What?" "If you were going to move in with us." Jae-hyun's heart stuttered. "What did you say?" "I said I'd think about it." She looked at him. "It's been almost 3 years, Jae. You've been consistent, patient. You've changed your entire life. Not for you. Liar." But she said it softly. "At least a little for me. Okay? Maybe a little for you." He took her hand. "But mostly for them, and for myself. I didn't like who I was. And now? Now I'm terrified, exhausted, and happier than I've ever been." Mia laughed. "That's parenthood. Is it also love?" She tensed. "Jae, I'm not asking you to say it back. I just need you to know I love you. I've always loved you. Even when I left. Even when I was too stupid and scared to admit it. You're it for me, Mia. You and those 2 perfect girls upstairs." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That you'll leave again. That something will pull you back into that world. That I'll let myself love you again. And you'll break me." "I can't promise I won't make mistakes," he said carefully. "But I can promise I'll never leave again. Not unless you tell me to go. What if I get scared and push you away? Then I'll wait on these steps until you're ready to let me back in." She turned to face him fully, searching his eyes for any trace of the man who'd abandoned her. She didn't find him. In his place was someone softer. Someone real. 6 more months, she whispered. "Ask me again in 6 months. That's 18 months total." "I know. Is that too long?" He kissed her forehead. "I'd wait 18 years. You're such a sap now. Fatherhood ruined me." "Good." She stood, pulling him up with her. "Come on, let's go inside. It's cold out here." "Mia, I'm not saying you're moving in, but you can stay tonight, on the couch." It wasn't everything, but it was enough. 6 months later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Mia woke to find Jae-hyun in the kitchen with Hana and Hira, making pancakes. Well, attempting to make pancakes. There was batter everywhere. "Appa said he used to be good at chemistry," Hira explained seriously. "But I don't think pancakes are chemistry. They're definitely science," Hana argued. "Just failed science." Jae-hyun looked up, flour in his hair, and grinned sheepishly. "Help?" Mia laughed, joining them in the chaos. And as they cooked together, 4 people creating something messy and imperfect and beautiful, she realized this was her family, not despite the broken pieces, because of them. Every scar, every mistake, every second chance had led them here. "Jae-hyun," she said softly while the girls argued about chocolate chips. "Yeah? Move in with us." He froze. "What?" "You heard me. Move in. Officially. Be here. Not on weekends, not on holidays. Every day. Are you sure?" She kissed him, tasting maple syrup and hope. "I'm sure. I love you. I've loved you through all of it. The anger, the hurt, the healing. And I'm done being scared. I love you too." He pulled her close. "So much it terrifies me." "Good. We'll be terrified together." Hana and Hira noticed them kissing and groaned dramatically. "Does this mean Appa's staying forever?" Hira asked. "Yes," Mia and Jae-hyun said in unison. "Finally," Hana sighed. "Now we can be a normal family." Jae-hyun laughed, that real full laugh he'd learned from them. "I don't know about normal," he said, scooping both girls into his arms. "But we'll definitely be family." And in that moment, surrounded by pancake batter and laughter and love, he finally understood. You don't inherit an empire. You build one. One breakfast at a time, one bedtime story at a time, one second chance at a time. His father had ruled through fear, but Jae-hyun would leave behind something far more powerful. Love. The end.